In March of 1945, the German Ninth Army locked its artillery onto 40,000 American troops. Every single one of them was fake. Inflatable, rubber and air. A muddy field near the Rhine River, western Germany. One man crouches low, brushing dark oil streaks beneath a Sherman tank. Another tilts an inflatable gun barrel, adjusting its shadow to match the angle of the morning sun. A third pulls camouflage netting over an artillery piece, not to conceal it, to make sure Luftwaffe pilots barely catch a glimpse from altitude. Everything here looks like a staging ground for a river crossing. That is the entire point. The tanks are rubber, the cannons are filled with air. The engine roar pouring across the field comes from loudspeakers. And the tens of thousands of American soldiers that German intelligence believes it has identified in this sector, they do not exist. 1,100 men occupy this ground, not infantrymen, artists, illustrators, sound engineers. Pulled not from boot camps, but from Pratt Institute, Cooper Union, the Rhode Island School of Design. Hidden among them, a future fashion icon, a future giant of the Museum of Modern Art, and a 20-year-old illustrator who will one day paint for National Geographic. Right now, he is kneeling in cold European mud, pressing fake tank treads into the soil with a wooden roller. This is the 23rd Headquarters Special Troops, the Ghost Army, the most classified deception unit the United States Army ever fielded. Over the next 6 days, these men will convince the German Ninth Army to aim its heaviest guns at an army made of canvas and compressed air, while the real assault force slips across the Rhine 13 kilometers north. The opening waves suffer only a few dozen casualties. Planners had braced for hundreds, maybe thousands. The men of the Ghost Army will sit beneath incoming shells, forbidden to return fire, shielding an army that does not breathe. By war's end, 3 of them will be dead, around 30 wounded. Proof that even a phantom army bleeds real blood. How did 1,000 artists deceive the Wehrmacht? And what happens when the enemy drops live ordnance on your inflatable tanks, with you still crouching in the foxhole beside them? Roll back 2.5 years. June 1943. A classified briefing room inside the Pentagon. American strategists pore over intelligence from North Africa. The British have just executed something remarkable at Emagne. Hundreds of dummy tanks, plywood frames, canvas shells planted in the south. Rommel swallowed it whole. The real force struck from the north. Victory. Now American planners want to scale this up. Bolder, sharper. Not just visual decoys, a full-spectrum sensory illusion. Visual, acoustic, electronic, all synchronized into a single performance. No military in history has ever tried anything like it. The math behind it is brutal and clean. After Normandy, the front line will stretch hundreds of kilometers. There will never be enough real troops to hold every sector. Every gap invites a German counterattack that could turn into a slaughter. But 1,100 specialists impersonating 40,000 soldiers free those real soldiers to fight somewhere else. And German intelligence carries a vulnerability. Their analysts depend on 3 pillars: aerial photographs, radio intercepts, and agent reports. Every single one can be fabricated. January 1944. The 23rd Headquarters Special Troops stands up at Camp Forest, Tennessee. 1,100 men. Most have never squeezed a trigger. They were not recruited to kill. They were recruited to perform. Now somebody has to find 1,100 people reckless enough to do it under artillery fire. Recruiters fan out to art schools. Pratt Institute in Brooklyn, Cooper Union in Manhattan, the Rhode Island School of Design. They hunt for painters, sculptors, sound engineers, radio operators. Arthur Shilstone is 20 years old, tall, thin, a sophomore at Pratt studying illustration. He draws on everything, napkins, envelopes, his own forearms when paper runs out. A recruiter puts one question to him. __, quote, _0, __. Arthur thinks about trompe-l'œil, flat surfaces that trick the eye into seeing 3 dimensions. That is what illustration is, he answers. He enlists the following morning. At Camp Forest he meets his unit. Bill Blass, future fashion legend, currently peeling potatoes. Ellsworth Kelly, future star of the Museum of Modern Art, currently learning to inflate a rubber tank in under 20 minutes. Arthur Singer, destined to become one of America's most celebrated wildlife illustrators. Architects, set designers, a radio DJ from Chicago, an entire unit of creative minds. Not one combat veteran among them. Their commander, Colonel Harry Reeder, offers no comfort. Silence swallows the room. Arthur scans the faces around him. Fashion designers, painters, kids pulled straight from art school. This is the force meant to deceive the Wehrmacht. Their first test is approaching, and nobody finds it funny anymore. 3 tools of deception, 3 senses to manipulate. First, sight, the rubber inflatables. Each tank weighs 42 kilograms. 4 men pump one full in 20 minutes. Up close, they look ridiculous, like carnival props. Some men laughed the first time they saw them. Parade floats. But from a reconnaissance plane at 3,000 feet, captured on a grainy black and white photograph, indistinguishable from a 33-ton Sherman. Arthur obsesses over the details that separate a convincing fake from a death sentence. Real tank treads tear mud in a specific pattern, so his team stamps matching grooves with wooden rollers. Crews hang laundry between actual vehicles, so they string clotheslines between decoys. Running engines melt snow around them, so they pour warm water at the base of the rubber. A real encampment is filthy, Arthur explains to a new recruit. Cigarette butts scattered, oil stains bleeding into dirt, footprints wandering in random directions. Too clean, and an intelligence analyst circles it on a photograph. So they make every fake deliberately sloppy, artfully careless. Second, sound. Engineers bolt 250-kilogram speakers onto half-tracks. They blast pre-recorded audio, tank engines growling, bridge pylons hammered into riverbeds, columns of boots striking pavement, audible from 24 kilometers away. Mixed live, like a DJ riding a fader. Volume off by 10%, and a German analyst catches it. He catches it, he digs deeper. He digs deeper, and the crossing force pedals straight into a curtain of artillery fire. Third, radio. Every military unit carries a unique communication fingerprint. Call signs, jargon, transmission rhythms. The 23rd's radio operators study real units for weeks, then replicate them flawlessly. One mismatched call sign, one phrase that doesn't fit the 30th Division's habits. That's enough for a German signals analyst to flag the whole transmission as counterfeit. 3 layers of fabrication, 1 synchronized performance. The men start calling themselves the Ghost Army, a name that won't surface in any official record for 50 years. Their early operations across France and Belgium succeed. Small diversions. Inflate a handful of tanks, broadcast engine noise, watch German units reposition. It almost feels like a game. Until Luxembourg, September 1944. Bedenborg, Luxembourg. The 23rd deploys close to the front for a genuine high-stakes mission. They erect inflatable artillery pieces across an open field, simulating a full regiment. Fake cannons aimed east straight at German positions. Camouflage netting draped with careful disorder over rubber barrels. Arthur positions the decoys himself, checks every angle, studies the light, walks 50 meters back and squints at the silhouettes. The shadows need to match the time of day, he tells a sergeant rushing through setup. Wrong shadow angle. A photo analyst catches it in seconds. The sergeant waves him off. They're just balloons, kid. From up there, Arthur jabs a finger toward the sky. They're the only thing standing between us and the real guns behind us. German reconnaissance aircraft locate the battery. Reports climb the chain of command. A formation of 150 mm howitzers swings to engage. At 14:22, the first shells land. Sound changes when you cannot fire back. Every incoming whistle narrows to something personal. Every detonation asks a question. This one? The next? Arthur crushes himself flat against the earth. Mud fills his ears. The ground bucks beneath his chest. A direct hit on a bunker 60 meters away. The blast wave erases everything inside in 1 second. When the dust clears, 2 men from the 23rd are dead, several more wounded. Their names will never reach a single headline. But inside the unit, every man knows exactly who paid for the illusion. Arthur sees what's left. His hand drifts to his sketchbook, the reflex of an illustrator, then freezes. His fingers tremble. Shredded inflatables litter the field. Torn rubber flaps in the wind like strange, silent flags. But command declares the operation a success. The Germans burned heavy ordnance on air and fabric. Real units positioned nearby, untouched. Success measured in someone else's survival. That night, Arthur sits alone in a foxhole, sketchbook balanced on his knees. He draws a small cross in a Luxembourg field, 2 names beneath it. The game is finished. This is real. The rubber cost real lives. He closes the sketchbook. Somewhere out there, German analysts mark the destroyed artillery as neutralized. They have no clue they just burned irreplaceable shells on nothing but air. And the biggest operation? Still 6 months away. The one that will test whether art can truly stop an army. March 1945, Western Front. The Allies have pushed all the way to the Rhine, the last barrier before Germany's heart. Operation Plunder, a massive crossing, multiple divisions, thousands of boats, the final push. But the Germans know it's coming. Every crossing point is fortified. Artillery lines the eastern bank. Fortified positions blanket every approach. Command needs a diversion, something large enough to drag German reserves away from the actual crossing site. The 23rd gets the call. Colonel Harry Reeder gathers his officers in a farmhouse basement. The order? Simulate 2 complete infantry divisions, the 30th and the 79th, staging a Rhine crossing near Versoyen. More than 40,000 phantom soldiers, an entire army conjured from rubber, speakers and radio waves. Duration 6 days, March 18th through March 24th. The real crossing happens 13 kilometers north on March 24th. Every German eye must be locked on Versoyen when the actual boats launch. Reeder's briefing is blunt. This is the largest deception this unit has ever attempted. If it fails, the crossing force absorbs the full weight of the German 9th Army. Thousands never come home. He pauses. Quote 8. Arthur raises his hand. Quote 9. Reeder doesn't blink. Then make sure no seams are visible. Schildstone. Arthur understands. If he fails, someone else dies. March 18th, 1945, Day 1. Versoyen sector, nightfall. They work through darkness. Trucks roll in with headlights off, hauling deflated tanks stacked like giant green pancakes. Teams of 4 wrestle each one down, connect air compressors, watch the rubber swell into shape. By dawn, 200 inflatables dot the fields around Versoyen. Proper shadows. Tire tracks pressed into mud with wooden rollers. But tanks alone aren't enough. They erect inflatable artillery pieces, build fake command posts from plywood, set up field kitchens producing real smoke. String clotheslines with actual laundry, because empty lines look suspicious from 3,000 feet. Pour oil stains beneath the rubber tanks. Arthur hasn't slept in 36 hours. His hands tremble from cold and caffeine. Every shadow at the wrong angle is a detail some German photo analyst will catch. If the light hits wrong, they'll see the seams, he tells Rita during inspection. Rita stares at him. Then make sure they don't. At dawn, a reconnaissance plane appears on the horizon. Arthur freezes. If that pilot drops below 2,000 feet, the seams on the turrets become visible. The plane circles once, twice, then banks east. Arthur exhales. Meanwhile, sound trucks roll into position 800 meters from German lines. Engine noise, bridge construction, hammering, splashing. Cranes groaning under invisible loads. On the far bank, German listening posts snap alert. Significant enemy activity in the Versoyen sector. Armored buildup and bridge assembly. The radio operators complete the picture. Every frequency floods with transmissions. Supply requests, medical coordination, unit movements. Each operator has studied the real 30th and 79th Divisions for weeks. The broadcasts are indistinguishable from genuine. 13 kilometers to the north, the real divisions prepare to cross the Rhine. None of them know their survival depends on 1,000 artists they have never met. March 19th, Day 2. Now come the actors. Soldiers of the 23rd stitch patches onto their uniforms. The 30th Division's Old Hickory insignia. The 79th's Cross of Lorraine. They paint unit markings on real trucks, the only real vehicles in the entire operation, and drive them through villages near Versoyen, slowly, visibly. The same trucks loop through different routes, swapping markings each pass. An illusion of endless convoys. In a village cafe, a sergeant wearing a 30th Division patch orders beer, talks too loudly about the upcoming big push across the river, drops specific grid coordinates, mentions a real general by name. He knows the woman behind the counter might pass information to German intelligence. That's the entire point. Every sloppy detail is choreographed, every breadcrumb is bait. German intelligence swallows all of it. Reports climb the chain to Army Group H. American 30th Division confirmed near Versoyen. 79th Division reinforcements arriving steadily. Build-up consistent with a major river crossing. Across the east bank, German commanders weigh the evidence. Aerial photographs showing hundreds of tanks, radio intercepts, supply convoys, listening post activity, construction sounds every night. Local agents confirming troop presence. Every indicator points the same direction. The Americans are crossing at Versoyen. A German general leans over his map table, finger pressed against that exact spot. He issues the order. __quote _14__. At that exact moment, Arthur Shilston kneels in mud beside an inflatable Sherman. He adjusts a camouflage net, hiding a rubber seam from the precise angle a dawn reconnaissance flight would capture. The general sees an armored division. Arthur sees rubber and adhesive. Both men believe they're winning. But the performance must survive 5 more days. On day 3, the weather betrays them. March 20th, day 3. 4:47 a.m. Arthur snaps awake to shouting. A storm has swept in overnight. Wind gusts of 60 kilometers per hour rake the flat ground near the Rhine. He staggers outside and sees it. A Sherman tank. 42 kilograms of rubber and air, cartwheeling across an open field like a monstrous green balloon. It bounces over a hedgerow and lands upside down, turret aimed at the sky. 2 more tanks tilt sideways, their surfaces rippling and tearing in the gale. If a German aircraft passes overhead now, They'll spot tanks behaving like beach balls. The entire operation dies. One reconnaissance pass. One photograph of a tank acting like a balloon. 6 days of deception. Gone. Colonel Harry Reeder's voice erupts from the field radio. I don't care that glue won't dry in the rain. If those tanks aren't upright in 20 minutes, you're all done. Arthur grabs a crew. They sprint through curtains of rain, wrestling rubber tanks back into place. Each one demands 4 men to handle. The wind resists every step. Stake them down, Arthur yells over the gale. Double anchor, tether lines through the base grommets. They drive metal stakes through rubber bases, pinning inflatables to the earth. Pile sandbags along the edges. Lash camouflage nets into improvised windbreaks. Arthur inspects a tank he's just secured. The rubber pulls taut against the stakes. A seam near the turret ring is splitting open. He digs adhesive from his pack, smears it on with numb fingers. Rain washes the glue away instantly. It won't bond. Arthur strips off his jacket, wraps it around the failing seam, cinches it down with wire. It'll hold until the adhesive cures. 1 hour. __quote _18 __. Arthur thinks __quote _19 __. The clouds hold. By dawn, the field looks unremarkable again. Tanks in formation, tracks gouged into mud, smoke curling from field kitchens. The illusion survives, barely. Across the river, German observation posts report nothing unusual. The American build-up at WWII proceeds as expected. But the storm is nothing compared to what the Germans are about to deliver. Not wind. Steel. March 22nd, Day 5. Night. Arthur sits in his foxhole, sketching by the pale glow of a distant flare, when the first shell arrives. No warning. A shriek that splits the air apart. Then a concussion that hammers his body into the dirt. Stones and earth cascade down. Then another round. And another. The Germans have unleashed a full artillery barrage on WWII. They are hammering the armored concentration their intelligence has tracked for 4 days. This means they believe the deception. But belief cuts both directions. If they discover the truth now, the real crossing becomes a slaughter. They are targeting rubber, but the shells are steel. 155mm high explosive rounds carve craters into the field. Shrapnel screams through the darkness. The ground heaves beneath him. Arthur flattens himself against the earth. The noise transcends noise, a physical force that shoves thought from his skull. An inflatable Sherman absorbs a direct hit. The blast rips through rubber like wet paper. Green fragments spiral upward, caught in the shock wave, then float down like confetti. A round strikes near a sound truck. Speakers topple. The recording skips, loops, dies. A soldier crawls to the truck under fire, reconnects wires with trembling hands. Engine noise.